Now we've got the management of Spandana also with us. Padmaja Reddy of Spandana Sphoorty also joining us this morning, to share with us an update on collections, cash flows, and also the impact of the lockdown. Thanks so much for joining us, Padmaja. Now, corporates have been pushing for a staggered opening up of the economy. Of course, 79% of your branches have been operational. Do you have presence in the red zone areas?
Yeah, collection efficiency in green and orange zones is better than red zones. We are operating in 280 districts out of 18 states, of which 57 districts are in red. We have 232 branches in red zones out of total 1,006 branches. Goa, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh and Bihar states are recovering faster than other states, followed by Orissa and Madhya Pradesh.
Okay. How have the cash flows been in the rural areas, and what is the kind of impact you're anticipating on collections for the industry as a whole? Have borrowers started making payments? Have things started to return to normalcy?
91% of our borrowers are in rural areas, which fortunately have little or no COVID incidents, and 57% of our borrowers engage in essential service activities such as dairy and agriculture activities. Hence, their health and cash flows are largely intact as verified by our loan officers post our resumption of operations. As such, the collection efficiency in rural is far superior in rural compared to urban. Most of the urban branches are red, and we have still not started these branches.
Sure. Can we expect further extension of the moratorium to borrowers by any chance?
Sorry?
Just wanted to understand whether there is any expectation of a further extension of the moratorium which the RBI prevailed towards to borrowers.
I don't see giving further moratorium as a solution. It will impact the credit discipline of the borrowers. This is a peak season for construction work, and we cannot expect the wage laborers who are dependent on this sector divide of wages for this season. I don't think that extension of moratorium is going to be a solution anymore. I think the rural borrowers having got wages during the last 2 months. Last 2 months, it's a peak season for agriculture. So they got their wages. They're more than willing to pay the installments. The problem is more in terms of reaching out to them. So at least like 70 to 80% of the borrowers, if we are able to go meet them, if we are able to explain them the disadvantages in terms of using moratorium, that there is a cost of interest, to that extent there is a delay in terms of getting the next loan, they're more than happy to pay the installments. As such, I don't see any further use in terms of extending moratorium. This may impact credit discipline in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. We're with you on that. What about credit demand in the rural areas as well? Give us some color on how the disbursements have been, whether there are fresh loans which are being undertaken or not, and whether you see an acceleration in demand kicking back once the lockdown gets lifted.
Yes, there is absolutely a great demand that is coming up in the rural areas. However, so we are still settling down in terms of opening branches. So there has been a concern in terms of landlords. When we reopened our branches, most of our branches are residential. So the landlords and neighbors are not happy in terms of our staff who are coming from the red zones. So we are convincing them. So we are telling them that like the staff are following social distancing and they're using masks. So they're still settling down. And again, we do loan disbursements in the branches. So at this point in time, we are not conducting group meetings. You know that like we follow JLG model. So any loan disbursement that has to be guaranteed by the whole group. So they have to come together. They have to do the documentation. They have to come to the branch as a group. So this is not happening at this point in time. It's all administrative process, which is delaying. But however, in the next 15 days, we are getting ready in terms of doing loan disbursements. So while the daily activity is very much intact, so most of the borrowers, they are in the process of making an applications. I think by May end, so we will be starting loan disbursements.
Okay, what's also your outlook on asset quality going forward, Padmaja? Are you factoring in any higher NPAs at this point? If you could just share that with us as well.
Yes, for the current financial year, we made 3% additional provision towards COVID-19. I think industry has to face much bigger hit than what it has faced during demonetization. During demonetization, some states had 100% recovery. Most of the northeastern states, for example, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Jharkhand, Bihar, we had 100% on-time recovery. There was absolutely no impact of demonetization, but which is not the case now. So I expect a much bigger hit of this this situation. So as such, like we paid 3% additional provision towards COVID.
Okay, and what about the fact that RBI has provided a refinance facility to SIDBI and NABARD for MSMEs and MFI lenders? How much of this has been dispersed? How much have you received through some of these funding institutions? What's your outlook on funding as well going forward? Because are banks providing moratorium on those payments and extending funding? What are you seeing?
Banks are divided on this. Few banks have taken tough stand of not providing moratorium. However, having already repaid March and April dues, it is just one EMI benefit that we get out of moratorium. Banks are extending funding. We raised 800 crore post-lockdown. So we did a direct assignment with SBI for 500 crore. We also raised 300 crore from NABARD. This is under refinancing. It is not under TLTRO. Which is significant, which is substantial, this 800 crore. And when it comes to SIDBI and NABARD, so they sought applications for a special liquidity facility. We already submitted proposals and they're processing. But however, in terms of approvals, we are expecting them by May end. But again, most of the banks, like they are able to deploy the TLTRO1. So when it comes to TLTRO2, they are still taking calls. I think banks, for the first time, they're processing their TLTRO funding for MFIs or NBFCs having rating below AA. So banks are still formulating policies in terms of funding these institutions. So there has been a delay. And however, as they have 45 days time, so in terms of time, they have to disburse by 10th June. So as if they have to disburse by 10th June, by May end, I think they'll be giving approvals. So by May end, we are expecting approvals by banks and also NABARD and SIDBI.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Padmaja. We'll have to leave it there. We have to take a very quick break. We'll be back with more on the other side.